Hi, I'm Eric Holder, and today I'm going to be demonstrating to you on the basics of playing tennis. The main point in tennis is finding a racket that best suits you. There are many types of rackets, some with the big heads, a lot with smaller. When you're a beginner, you always want to try starting out with a racket with a bigger head, so that way it's easier to hit the ball and not miss. More experienced players would prefer a smaller head racket because with that you get more accuracy and more power on your swing when you make contact with the ball. The next thing for beginners would be your grips and your strokes. The grip on your racket is a very important aspect when you're playing tennis because it can depend on where you hit the ball or not. So when you grip the tennis racket, you want to hold it kind of loosely in your hand because when you grip it too tight, you shake. So when you hold it loosely, it allows for more accurate swing. The first stroke I'm going to be demonstrating to you is called a forehand stroke. A forehand is your most powerful stroke in tennis, and you start by holding the racket on your dominant side of your body with your dominant hand, because that's your stronger hand. And next is your backhand stroke. You want to hold, your backhand is usually held with two hands, but there's also a one-handed backhand. But the one with two hands, you start on the opposite side of your body and you swipe up and hit a backhand. That's when the ball goes to your non-dominant side of your body. When the ball goes to your dominant side, you want to use your forehand. Non-dominant, backhand. Next most important thing in tennis is your serve. The serve is probably also one of the most important things because it's how you start the point. It's usually initiated by tossing the ball in the air and hitting your racket down at it to get the ball across the net onto your opponent's side of the court. And the serve is the only type of shot where a player can take his time to set up. So say I'm serving, I get to take all the time essentially that I need to get a good serve against my opponent. So I start by having the ball, making sure my feet are positioned, throw the ball up, hit it. And what I want to happen is for the tennis ball to go in on my opponent's side of the court where I want it to go. It's also, serving is probably one of the more difficult aspects in tennis because it is very hard to aim exactly where you want the ball to go, especially when you're hitting with so much power. That with more power becomes less accuracy. And more advanced players can hit the ball where they want and with more power and accuracy. But that's just when you play for a long time. And if you miss the opponent's service box, which is where you're supposed to serve into, then you only have one more serve after that before it becomes their point. And then if you miss again, that's called a double fault, and you lose the point, which means they still get the point. In conclusion, I've learned after playing tennis for about 4 to 5 years that I always try to stick to the most basics. Like you're figuring out the right racket for you, learning your grips and your strokes, whether it be your forehand or your backhand, and then getting better on my serve and perfecting it to the best of my ability. And if you want to get better, just improve on all of these basics, and you will continue to grow as a tennis player and become better. And you just want to practice and improve upon the basics. The steps in tennis may seem easy, but when all put together, it can be a very tricky sport because you have seconds to decide. When an opponent hits the ball at you, you have to decide whether you need to position yourself for a forehand or a backhand. It's just things like that that make the sport very tricky at times. So, like I said, just stick to the basics, improve upon them, and you will get better at tennis. Thank you.
Good job.
Well done. Very nice.